welcome, guys, to the very first episode of Wrestling on the Go. We're glad you could be here. This is presented by TheRingsideRoster.com. I'm your host, Drew DeSocio, owner of TheRingsideRoster.com, the hottest source for all the latest wrestling news, rumors, info, and more. So make sure to check that out, as well as our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to officially join the roster. This is usually the part where I would be joined by my co-host, co-owner of Too Sweet Cosplay, my good friend Steve-O. However, he's indisposed at the moment. The show is in the working, and we do have a plan to film possibly every Wednesday. So we appreciate it if you do kind of work on things with us as we try to get settled and try to adjust the schedule for the show. Since this is our first episode, I just wanted to give you guys a little background on us, as well as a rundown of what the show will include. I am, again, Drew DeSocio. I've been doing this for about 15 years now. I've been doing things in the wrestling industry. I started out, I'm good friends with Mark Middleton, who's a big name in wrestling and wrestling news. I was lucky enough to meet him and work with some great people along the way and make great connections. And it was just something I've been passionate about wrestling since I've been 3 years old. I can remember matches with the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, and my favorite of all time, of course, the Heartbreak Kid himself, Shawn Michaels. That's really the guy that got me hooked. And I remember watching Shawn and thinking to myself, one day I'm either going to be a wrestler or I'm somehow going to be involved in the business. And years later now, I'm lucky enough that I've gotten to do a lot of things. I've gotten to run different websites for different people, on different pages, Facebook pages. I've been on radio shows, podcasts, and now finally about 2 years ago, I got to open the Ringside Roster. And now recently we opened the RingsideRoster.com website, which has really been doing great. It's been recognized all over social media by different wrestlers. Our base continues to grow as one of the hottest sources for wrestling around. And we're not just a wrestling news source, we're also a wrestling community. We care about our members. We thank our members very much for being a part of things, and we continue to encourage people to join the roster. So thank you very much for all your support. Thank you very much for everything, and we hope you enjoy this addition to things with Wrestling on the Go. With that said, guys, why don't we get into the show itself? The show itself, Wrestling on the Go, is basically your weekly wrestling news, headlines, top stories, everything all in one. We know that people are busy. We know that, life can be tough and you can be pressed for time with everything going on. So we've got it covered, and we're going to make sure to include everything and get to the point without the BS. So our first story of the day, which I covered on the RingsideRoster.com, but here we go. The Money in the Bank competitors were announced this week, of course, by WWE, and they will include, for the women's side, Alexa Bliss, Ember Moon, Dana Brooke, Bayley, Natalya, Carmella, Naomi, and Mandy Rose. This is obviously interesting because Sasha Banks is not on this list. And we'll get into more about the Sasha Banks situation in a little bit, but it's just very interesting not to see her on the list of names with everything that's been going on as of late. Now let's get into possibilities for winners of this match. When you look at, the participants themselves, Alexa Bliss, Ember Moon, Mandy Rose, there's all some possibilities in there. I could definitely see Ember Moon pulling it off. Before Ember got injured, she was on a roll, and she was in that Battle Royal looking real good, facing all those opponents and Nia Jax. And, Ember looked good. It looked like Ember was going to be primed for big things. It looked like that she was going to get a push. But again, she went down with that untimely injury, unfortunately. But she's back, and she looks better than ever. So this could possibly be the time that we see WWE take the next step with her and put the briefcase on her. That's a possibility. Alexa Bliss, who also returned to action recently, that's another possibility. Alexa, former women's champion multiple times, always a possibility that they could put the briefcase on her, former Miss Money in the Bank. So never rule that out. That's a safe bet as well. Mandy Rose, again, another one that they've been focused on and looking to push. There's a possibility for her as well. Again, we'll get into the Sasha Banks situation a little later. But again, it's strange not to see her in this match. But those are all possibilities that I could definitely see happening when it comes to the Women's Money in the Bank match. So we're going to have to see about that. Now, on the men's side of things, we have Andrade, Ricochet, Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor, Baron Corbin, Randy Orton, and Ali. Guys, as far as a winner here, Braun Strowman, he won last year. There hasn't been much with him since. Supposedly, from the things I've heard and the things backstage, a lot of the time when it comes to Braun, a lot of his pushes have been halted because some of the stuff, he says and some of the stuff he does backstage, the way he carries himself can be detrimental to him, to the way he gets pushed sometimes. So it almost sounds like Strowman can be his worst enemy when it comes to WWE. And it's unfortunate because I wrote a piece not too long ago talking about Braun Strowman. The guy has all the potential in the world. He can easily be the next big star for WWE, can be in the league of guys like Undertaker, Big Show, years down the line. But something always seems to happen, and he always seems to kind of get pushed to the side. We'll have to see. It was also said recently, and I was told as well, that Vince McMahon kind of looks at him now as a guy that's more of like a mascot for the company than a top superstar. And again, that's unfortunate because Braun could do big things for the company. I think being world champion, I think there's a lot of potential there. He could be a guy that just kind of floats around the top, but never really gets to the top, unfortunately. But I think the strong favorite here would have to be, and from what I've been told as well, Drew McIntyre is the favorite to win this match. Now, Drew McIntyre, if you remember, I'm sure he was in WWE a number of years ago, the chosen one, Vince McMahon's, guy. He left after being in 3MB. That didn't go so well, but he left and he came back. And after being in TNA for a stint, Impact Wrestling, the guy was better than ever. He's in the best shape of his life. He's putting on great performances in the ring. He's really mastered that character that he has now. And the last piece of the puzzle for Drew is really capturing a world title, which I'm surprised that he hasn't by now, but it could very well happen this year at Money in the Bank. So really look for Drew McIntyre to be a standout in that match and possibly win that match. There's also guys in the match like Ricochet, Andrade, Finn Balor, Baron Corbin. They're all possibilities, although some may be bigger underdogs. Never rule out the possibility, however, that they could, WWE, slide in a Baron Corbin win. Baron Corbin defeated Kurt Angle this year at WrestleMania, an unpopular decision. A lot of people didn't want him in that match at all. And a lot of people were hoping for John Cena, including, Kurt himself, from the things he posted on social media, as well as his wife. We didn't get that match. We did get Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle, again, with Baron Corbin defeating him. Ever since then, it's been a thing that he can brag about, and he's done that at every chance that he could possibly get. So never rule out the possibility of a Baron Corbin win. So definitely it's a match that I'm looking forward to. And I'm sure you guys will be looking forward to. Money in the Bank is one of the best times of the year. It's always fun to see who gets the briefcase for both the men and the women, and who WWE believes that when they put that briefcase on you, it's pretty much saying that we have faith in you to be the next star or the top star. I know there's been failed cash-ins like Damian Sandow and even Braun Strowman that haven't exactly gone on to the best things, Baron Corbin as well. But usually it's stamp of approval. So definitely looking forward to that. All right. With that said, we're going to move on to the next topic for the show this week. Lio Rush. Everybody wants to know what's going on with Lio Rush. Lio. Man, it sounds like to say that things are not going well between Lio Rush and WWE would be an understatement right about now. Lio Rush is a talented competitor. He's probably one of the most athletically gifted superstars that we've ever seen come into the WWE. He's a guy that they could definitely build around, make a champion. The guy's amazing. There's no doubt about it. He's good on the mic. He's been working with Lashley. It's been a lot of fun. But the problem that Lio Rush has is kind of the same problem that a guy like Enzo Amore had, where his mouth can sometimes get him into trouble, as well as his attitude backstage. He can rub guys the wrong way. To kind of catch you guys up to speed, there's been a series of things that, reportedly happened. There was a situation where Lio Rush didn't want to carry the water jug in the back, and he didn't want to clean up around the backstage area. Now, these are things that guys have been doing for years, guys that are new to the business kind of do to earn respect, earn their way. And guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, all these guys did that stuff back in the day. And, they didn't bitch about it. They didn't moan about it. It was just part of the deal. It's a way to pay respect to the veterans, to the guys that were there before you. So him not wanting to do that and kind of feeling like he was better than that rubbed some guys the wrong way. You got guys like Aleister Black, Heavy Machinery, just to name a few, that sweep up in the back. They stay late. They help the ring crew out, and they're happy to do it. So for him to kind of think he's better than that, that can definitely create issues in the back, and I can definitely understand that. So that was the first thing. Then there was reportedly a situation or situations, I should say, where he's been bringing his wife to the events with him when it comes to, travel and everything, bringing her backstage constantly, which obviously, to bring your family backstage from time to time, not a big deal. Of course, they're going to want to visit. They're going to want to come to events. They're going to want to meet other wrestlers, the stars, whatever. It's your family. No big deal there. But to have your wife backstage at every event, that could, again, rub some people the wrong way, rub Vince McMahon the wrong way. It's not a good look at the end of the day. And reportedly, Finn Balor also mentioned this to Lio Rush, just as kind of a way to say, hey, man, I just wanted you to know that this might not look that good, and I wanted to kind of give you a heads up. I'm told it was nothing malicious, nothing like that, but that Lio Rush kind of went off on Finn Balor regardless, which kind of upset some people in the back. Then there was another situation where Lio Rush invited some friends to come to an event, and they were bothering and harassing security. Again, that doesn't look good. There have even been guys like Titus O'Neil who, had offered to mentor Lio Rush in the back, kind of to say, hey, man, let me help you get yourself together. Let's get everything straight. And that was also, I'm told, turned down. And just this week, it was reported, I reported again as well on the ringsideroster.com, that WWE had made an offer of $300,000 to Lio Rush for 5 years, a deal, a contract offer, which he reportedly turned down. Now, I don't know why in that type of situation you would turn that down if all these things are going on and WWE is still, I would say, kind enough to offer you that sort of deal, even though there may be a number of people that don't want you there. I would think that you would want to take it, but his response was more that he's not interested. And if that's the kind of offer they have, then he would rather go somewhere else and prove that he's a main event player, a main event star, because that's what he feels he is. And that's where he feels he should be at. Mark Henry and Booker T are guys that recently posted on social media about this. And they kind of, they were scratching their heads at this, saying, again, guys like Stone Cold, guys like The Rock, these guys weren't too good to do these things. They didn't think they were bigger than the company, that kind of stuff. So who the hell are you? Booker T kind of said, this is the time, Leo. This is kind of make or break. Get your head on straight now before it's too late, before they put you out the door. So Leo, if you're listening, that would be my best advice, man. Get your head on straight, get things clear, and get back to work. Because, again, you're a talented guy in between those ropes and on that mic, but Nobody is bigger than WWE, and that's just a fact. With that said, we're going to move on to the next topic as we move along. Bray Wyatt and the Firefly Funhouse. Bray Wyatt, as we know, was out of action for some time. He's been out. JoJo's having a baby. There's been a lot of stuff going on, but he finally returned. We had been seeing these vignettes, these promos for something kind of dark and twisted. We saw a buzzard come out of a box. We saw a doll, and it all kind of alluded to Bray Wyatt. So about 2 weeks ago, he made his big return. We saw him in a promo. We saw him as kind of this Dr. and Jekyll, Mr. Hyde meets Mr. Rogers, Pee Wee Herman type character. It's something very different. It's something very interesting for the fans, something that I'm excited to see where it goes. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings on it. Some like it, some hate it. But I actually think that it has a lot of potential, and reportedly so does WWE, from what I'm told. There's going to be a lot of things with this character that are going to be unveiled as more videos are shown to us. We're going to kind of see where it's headed. You kind of get an idea of that now, that he's better, but not exactly better, that there's something darker lurking inside him that's waiting to come out. So it should be interesting to see how they go about that. They reportedly mentioned that they have stuff in the works that's going to be very cool that we're going to see. So I'm really interested to see how it works itself out. There are, again, reportedly big plans for his character when he starts to get rolling and he has matches again. And I've actually heard that they want him to be undefeated for a good stretch when he does return to the ring, because they are trying to set him up to make him look strong. They want to put a world title on him somewhere, down the line, not too far. So they're hoping for big, big things with this character. And if you look on social media and you look on YouTube, there's been tons and tons and tons of views of that video and all his videos. So it looks to be working, no matter what you may think of the character itself. I think he needed something different at the end of the day. Let's be honest. Bray Wyatt, unfortunately, wasn't going anywhere for a guy that has the kind of talent that he has. Too many times did they halt his pushes. Even when he was WWE champion, that didn't last very long. With so many failed attempts, you could say, at having him be a top star, I think maybe this could be the thing. Who knows, that gets him there. And they're definitely hoping that he is with this. I'm sure he's hoping that this is what gets him there. Let's try to just wait and see where it goes before we start to hate it and things like that. I'm interested. Let's see what happens. I'm all in for the Firefly Funhouse. We'll move on to Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans, which is happening at Money in the Bank. Becky also has a match with Charlotte at the same pay-per-view, Money in the Bank, pulling double duty that night, which, is going to be rough on her, obviously. And again, she has this match with Lacey Evans. A lot of people feel like Lacey Evans, she's too new, she doesn't deserve it. She just came up from NXT. A lot of people don't know her yet. They had her doing those walkouts before WrestleMania for several weeks where she would just come out on Raw and SmackDown and she would walk out to her music and she would walk right back. There wasn't much involved when it came to matches. A lot of people really don't have a feel for Lacey Evans yet. A lot of people look at her as just a Charlotte clone. But I can tell you from watching her in NXT for some time that she is definitely not that. Lacey Evans is very capable in the ring. Former Marine, she's hardworking, she has a great personality, and she actually has some decent mic work and a good character. So Lacey Evans, although it might be a little soon in some people's eyes to put a title on her, sometimes you got to do that, man. Sometimes there's the shock factor, which is great. And not only that, it would take a title off Becky Lynch, who would not have to carry around two titles. And as cool as Becky Two Belts is, I'm a big, Becky Lynch fan. Love Becky Lynch. I mean, she's the man. What else can you say? As cool as she is, I think it's rough on her, working both shows, carrying both belts, having to pull double duty. I think it might be a good move to put the title on Lacey, and it could be something very interesting. Some of the best champions have come out of nowhere when we least expected it. Brock Lesnar came in, won that title in no time, became the WWE champion. He defeated The Rock. A lot of people didn't expect it. I remember watching back then, and I expected it because you could see that although he was new, although he was kind of raw, that he was going to be good. He was going to be damn good, and there was a lot of things that were going to be happening for Brock Lesnar. He was going places, so I wasn't surprised. Look at Randy Orton. Randy Orton, who expected him to win the world title as fast as he did, become the youngest world champion of all time. A lot of people didn't expect that, but again, it's not exactly surprising. These guys have all the talent in the world. Looking back on these things, they were good moves. And at the time, people might have disagreed with them, but sometimes it can be best for business, man, and best for the fans. So if she were to win the title, give it a chance, see how she does, see where it goes. Try not to hate it just yet. And also, if you're not familiar with her, go look at some stuff in NXT. NXT is, in my opinion, the hottest show around. I never miss an NXT, and out of all the programs, out of all the shows, NXT, my absolute favorite, I will say. So Becky versus Lacey, Money in the Bank, we'll see. All right, so we're on to the next topic, and here's where I told you that we would get to it later. Sasha Banks. Well, for those that don't know, Sasha Banks and Bayley, the first WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, lost the titles to the Iconics at WrestleMania. Shortly after WrestleMania, I think the next day or, several days after that, word got out that Sasha Banks wanted out of WWE. And that at WrestleMania, she threw a tantrum backstage after the show, in so many words. And she also did it with Bayley backstage at the hotel. She posted a bunch of cryptic things on social media. She posted a bunch of things about being unhappy with her situation, where she was at, and her husband even posted as well and pretty much confirmed that fact. Then it came out, a little more came out about her being mad about the short title reign that she had and some of the short title reigns she has had in the past, and her being promised that her and Bayley would have a match with Beth Phoenix and Natalya at Money in the Bank for the women's tag titles. Apparently, WWE had promised her that match and went back on the promise. So a bunch of these things had come out, and you had stars, commenting on social media, fans on social media. Some people defended her. Some people were against it. And you even had, wrestlers on social media telling her, maybe you should grow up. Maybe you should stop throwing tantrums. Maybe you should be appreciative of your opportunities, because although you feel that there hasn't been as many as you would like, or it didn't go how you would have liked, that there's a lot of people that didn't get any opportunities at all so far when it comes to the company, or possibly in the past, the way that Sasha Banks had. I have to say that I feel for Sasha Banks in this situation, because I can remember back for every title reign that she had. And again, she's a talented competitor. She has a lot of fans. She's great. People say that she has an attitude. People say that when she meets fans, she's not really fond of meeting kids. Everybody has some things to them. But again, she's one of their more popular women's wrestlers. But like I said, I feel for her, because ever since she came to the main roster, every time she became champion, it always kind of felt like they ripped it away from her way too soon. It always felt like she was either in the shadow of somebody, in the shadow of Charlotte. They never kind of did right by her, in my opinion. And this time, I can see where she's coming from. She felt as though she would finally get a decent title reign, with Bayley. It's something that she's really passionate about. She's really passionate about women's wrestling, about, the women's revolution, women kind of taking over the scene in WWE and wrestling and proving that they're just as good as the men. And recently at WrestleMania, we had our first women's main event, which was a huge step for them. So, I know she's a huge advocate for that stuff. Then it also came out about a week or two ago. WWE knew that she was unhappy, and they kind of wanted to try to work something out with her, to kind of work a deal out. They were going to have her maybe come back before the announcement for the Money in the Bank competitors, put her in the Money in the Bank match and have her win that, so she could become Miss Money in the Bank this year and maybe kind of appease her, smooth things over. And that didn't happen. Obviously, we know the participants in the match now, and she's not one of them, which was very interesting, as I, mentioned earlier, which I wanted to get to. I have heard that there's still a possibility of her being entered into the match, maybe kind of taking out Dana Brooke in the match, or before the match rather, so that she's a part of it and not Dana. I could see that happening. I could see that setting them up if they're able to work something out with her, but we'll have to see about that. If she continues to sit out the way that she has, WWE is going to add on time for the time that she sat out. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a similar situation not too long ago with Neville. Neville didn't like the direction of his character. He didn't like where things were going. He wanted out of his contract. He just wanted to go, plain and simple. And Neville kind of sat on his contract, and they just kept adding on time and time for the time that he wasn't, honoring his contract. So I don't think that's something that she wants to do, in my opinion, because, it could be forever till she gets out of her contract. She could have her eyes set on going to All Elite Wrestling, which is, starting up and running soon. She could have her eyes on going to New Japan. These are just some options, but she's not going to be able to do anything, unfortunately, if she doesn't finish out her contract. So I think the best thing for both sides to do in this case would be, Sasha, just finish out your contract. Just put in your time, and when the contract is over, go where you want. If you're still unhappy, go somewhere else, sign with somebody else. If you can get them to release you, hey, listen, go ahead, by all means. If you feel that you're worth it, if you feel that, you're not being appreciated there, who am I to say, who is anybody to say that that's not the right move? If you feel that you'd be treated better elsewhere, go for it. I hope for the best in this situation. I hope cooler heads can kind of prevail in this situation and something can be worked out. But I'm going to keep you guys updated. We're going to follow this, and, we'll see what happens between them. Next up, just something I want to cover quick. Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles, obviously set for Money in the Bank. Should be a great, great match with arguably two of the best guys in the ring, in the company, possibly, the very best. These are two of their most popular superstars. It's a dream match. Let's be honest. It's something that fans have wanted to see for a long time. They've been on separate brands. They've kind of kept them apart, but now they're finally together. They're having a match. I personally didn't think that they were going to pull the trigger this soon with AJ, just recently coming to Raw. Thought they'd kind of like draw it out a little bit, something like that. But I'll take it. I'm happy to see it now. I don't want to wait, so I'm glad. I'm more of a little bit of an AJ Styles fan. So with him coming to Raw recently and Seth just winning the title recently, I don't see him winning it just yet. That's the only thing for me. But this is a situation where we all win. The fans win, and it should be a great, great match at Money in the Bank. The interesting thing about it to me, the aspect of AJ Styles, now being a heel when it comes to this feud rather than being the face. I think that's pretty cool. AJ is a great face, fans love him, but honestly, he does some of his best work for people that have been watching him for years, TNA, stuff like that. He does some of his best work as a heel, and I'm excited to see it. I'm interested to see it. I think it'll be a great dynamic. We saw some of it when he hit the phenomenal forearm. He put Seth through the table on Raw, so I'm interested. I can't wait to see the match. I'm excited for Money in the Bank, and it's definitely the top match for me of the night when it comes to Money in the Bank. Just want to give a little shout out to the Machine Brian Cage, who recently won the Impact World title over at Impact Wrestling at Rebellion, the recent pay-per-view. He defeated Johnny Impact. Big shout out to him. Big fan of the guy. Cage, he's a great wrestler. He's got the size. He's got the look. So I just wanted to shout him out and say congratulations. I can only hope that one day we'll see him in WWE, but only time will tell on that, but that's just my thing. Next up, we have Goldberg, who's making his WWE return in Saudi Arabia. It was announced by WWE coming up at the pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia in June that he's going to be making his big return on June 7th. A lot of people, again, have mixed feelings on this. Goldberg, obviously, getting up there in age. He had a good run about a year or so ago, Universal Champion, kind of a way to say goodbye to Goldberg, one last run. It was fun. It was great while it lasted, but people haven't exactly been clamoring for him to come back, you would say. But when it comes to Saudi Arabia, guys, the truth is that they have the money to throw around, so they can get these kind of stars. Guys like Goldberg, The Undertaker, they even got Shawn Michaels to come out of retirement. I mean, this is the kind of money they have. This is the kind of relationship they have with WWE. It's not too surprising to see Goldberg make his big return. As for a match when it comes to Goldberg, guys, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about Goldberg coming back, and there's a story out there about him. He's going to defeat Kofi Kingston for the title in Saudi Arabia, and he's going to become the new WWE champion. I can tell you 100% that story is false. You don't have to worry about that. That's not something that's in the works right now. That's not the plan. I would, to be honest, that would be shocking to me to see that happen. That's not the plan right now. So just wanted to let you guys know a little bit about that because I've seen that floating around and I wanted to kind of disprove that for you. Kofi fans, rest easy, at least for now. Kofi Mania is still running wild, don't worry. But I did see that Lashley had thrown out his name recently on social media to have a match with Goldberg in Saudi Arabia. And I wouldn't mind that match at all. Something that people have been wanting to see for a while, just like the match with Lashley and Brock Lesnar. So Lashley and Goldberg colliding, that worked for me. If they could make that happen, that'd be great. I also saw something out there with Randy Orton commenting on status of Goldberg on social media. So that could be another possible match that they would be building towards. Either match works for me. It could be something fun. We'll see about that. For those that haven't seen it, the former Dean Ambrose, now John Moxley, recently put a video out at the beginning of the month, the first, I believe, it was that he was going to be returning as John Moxley. People have been wondering, is Dean Ambrose going to stay? If he's going to go? That's been the big question. Even though, he said that he was leaving. Fans still have a hard time believing that one of their favorites is leaving, whether he says it or not. Is it a work? Is it not a work? That's always the thing I see online. Is it a work? In this case, no, it is not a work. And he's coming back as John Moxley. He shot a video. You kind of see him walking in a rough neighborhood. You get some pictures that allude to a certain pay-per-view in Las Vegas coming up in May. You see, literal hounds of justice chasing him in the video. For those that don't know, though, John Moxley, again, the former Dean Ambrose, people, fans that have watched CZW know that he's more of a hardcore character. He's had some grueling matches, barbed wire, fire, everything that you could possibly imagine. Think of Mick Foley, pretty much. People are excited to see him return, to see the character return, to see where, he's going to be headed. All signs point to AEW, All Elite. Again, the show in Las Vegas. Ambrose is from Las Vegas. So don't be surprised if he shows up. That's all I have to say for that pay-per-view. Double or nothing. New Japan, also on fire. That's another possibility. But AEW, definitely the most likely. It's starting up, and that could be the guy that they position at the top. It had been reported that CM Punk was the guy that they wanted at the top to be their number one, to head the company, to be their big star, to have their huge moment, their big guy. So Dean Ambrose, John Moxley could definitely be that guy for them. Next up, just last night, Alex Riley, who some may remember from his, run in WWE a few years back, posted on social media that he was ready for a comeback when it came to wrestling. He used some hashtags, including John Cena. Alex Riley had a lot of potential. Alex Riley, had the look. He was decent enough in the ring. It looked like he was going places. And then things started happening. And then you heard rumblings of things, backstage, that he upset Randy Orton, that he upset John Cena. People didn't want to work with him. He was dangerous, all these things. And before you knew it, the guy was out the door. I was a big Alex Riley fan back then. I thought that they kind of did him wrong, that he should have been a lot bigger than he was. So I would be excited, whether it's WWE or any other promotion, to see him back in the ring where he belongs. That guy has star power and he deserves a shot. I actually contacted Alex Riley to see if he wanted to speak about the post, if he wanted to make any comments on the situation for the ringsideroster.com. And so far, I haven't heard anything back. So if I do hear anything, we'll make sure to include it in future episodes. And you can also check the ringsideroster.com, the Ringside Roster Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for those stories as well, and the latest stories. And word broke today that Becky Lynch was actually going to be the latest cover star for the new WWE 2K20 game. Fox Sports Asia actually broke the news saying that Becky Lynch would be the cover star, which I think is great. It'd be great to have the man on the cover. Obviously, it's a big honor to be on the cover. I can't think of anyone better right now that deserves it or who's hotter in the business than Becky Lynch. Her being on the cover, again, congratulations. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to play it. I'm an avid gamer, especially WWE games. That's my thing. Been playing them for many years. Can't wait to play it. I wish they would have picked me for the $1 Million Challenge, but again, can't wait to play the new game. Mick Foley also posted something recently on social media saying that, for the right price, he'd be willing to come out of retirement and even go as far to have another Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker in Saudi Arabia for the right amount of money. For those of us that grew up watching WWE through the Attitude Era like myself, The Undertaker versus Mankind was one of the most brutal feuds that we've ever seen in the history of professional wrestling. I mean, who can ever forget watching that match, seeing Mankind go through the top of the cell and land in the ring, sailing off the top of the cell through the announcer's table. A lot of people thought the guy was dead, that he wasn't going to get up, probably including himself. And amazingly, he did, and he finished the match. Mick Foley has taken amazing punishment over the years, and it's left a toll on his body. Mick, we appreciate everything that you've done, but I think I speak for mostly everybody, I would hope, when we say that we don't need to see that match again. Just take it easy, stay home. You've earned it, buddy. Swinging back to Kofi Kingston real quick. Since Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship, a lot of people have been saying that nothing has really changed. People thought that when he won the title, that he would kind of develop his own personality, his own persona, kind of separate from the New Day. Even if he stayed with the New Day, a main event persona, like a lot of guys have had in the business before him. He's still out there, still goofing around, throwing pancakes, the same New Day stuff. Speaking for myself, I honestly wouldn't mind him getting his own identity or personality, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people, again, have done it in the past. And it's kind of one of those things when you get to that status, how are you going to stand out? What are you going to do different? What's going to represent you or make you a champion? What are people going to remember? If you want to continue to do the New Day stuff, again, throw the pancakes, all of that, dance around, that's fine. But again, just to touch on it, I wouldn't mind his own identity, his own personality. A lot of people are waiting for the New Day to break up. A lot of people are waiting for, Big E to turn on Kofi Kingston or Xavier Woods to turn, or Kofi to turn. And that would be interesting. I don't know if it's going to happen. That's usually what happens when it comes to these factions, in the history of wrestling. But We'll see, man. We'll see if that happens with New Day, or they'll be the first or one of, the first factions to stick it through, to stay together through the whole thing, through their whole careers, and go into the Hall of Fame and not break up, not turn on each other. But I have to say that it would definitely be interesting to see a guy like Big E turn on Kofi Kingston, to adapt a heel persona, maybe, and have a run as world champion himself. I mean, he definitely deserves it. He's, money in the making. He's got the look. He's charismatic. He's good on the mic. I wouldn't mind seeing it. But whether they stay together, whether they don't stay together, whether someone turns, Kofi right now, he's on top. You can't take that away from him. WWE champion. Took 11 years to get there. A lot of hard work. People thought he would be champion back in 2009 with, the whole feud with Randy Orton. And they kind of pulled the plug on that. He finally won it recently. So congrats to him. And we'll see where it goes for him. And I hope for the best. I loved watching it at WrestleMania. And, it was a great moment. It's a moment I'll always remember. And will probably go down as one of the biggest moments of all time. So can't take anything away from Kofi Mania. We're going to skip to the Revival situation that's been going on. For those of you that have been following on social media and behind the scenes, backstage and all that, the Revival, again, for a few months now, have mentioned that they weren't exactly happy in WWE. That's been making the rounds, that's been the reports. That's what I've heard as well. They weren't happy in WWE. They wanted out as well, like several other superstars these days. And so in an effort to kind of make things better, WWE gave them the belts, the tag belts, just before WrestleMania, which they wound up losing at WrestleMania to Hawkins and Ryder, of course. Then on Raw, we got a scene with them and, they were in the shower. We saw them shaving each other's backs. We saw the Usos recording it. And it was kind of a situation where it looked as if WWE was kind of trying to maybe humiliate them, maybe take it out on them, because reportedly they were offered deals recently. And they were 5-year deals worth $500,000 per year, per superstar, per, Dash and Dawson, which they decided to turn down. It's one of those things where it looked like WWE was kind of taking it out on them, maybe for turning the offer down or at least not accepting it as of yet. And I've also heard that we may not be seeing the last of that. There may be more of that on the way with them turning down the offer. I mean, it's not exactly uncommon for WWE to kind of, job people out or kind of find ways to take things out on them on screen for things they posted on social media. But I would say if the Revival is on their way out, best case scenario, same thing, goes back to Sasha. Finish out your contract if you're unhappy and kind of head elsewhere, whether it's All Elite, whether it's New Japan, whatever it is, because WWE isn't going anywhere at the end of the day. Same with guys like Drew McIntyre, guys that came back after a number of years. If you keep a good relationship with them, you can pretty much always come back. There's always a spot for you. So if you're unhappy, just finish things on the right terms. You signed the contract. You knew what you were signing on for at the time. You kind of knew that WWE can do these things. So just finish out your contract and head elsewhere, again, if you're unhappy. Which brings me to my next topic. Luke Harper. About 2 weeks ago, he asked for his release, and he did it publicly on social media. If you remember, Ty Dillinger did that before he left as well. He announced it on social media, and, then he got his release from WWE shortly after. It was granted, no problem. Now, when it comes to Luke Harper, he did the same thing. He posted it on social media. He, said that he was leaving WWE. He thanked the fans and so on. But the only difference with this is that they actually denied his request to leave. Not only did they deny the request to leave, I'm told they're actually tacking on more time for the time that he was injured recently. and they kind of froze the contract when he was injured, and they're adding 6 months onto the contract for the time that he was injured. Again, I feel for these guys because they're in situations where they're unhappy. They're not being used the way that they feel they should be used, and they want to go somewhere that they feel that their talents would be properly utilized. But you sign the contract and you kind of, again, know what you're in store for. Sometimes they can use you great, sometimes they can use you not so great. But that's all sort of in the luck of the draw when you sign that contract. Then I heard that Vince has absolutely no plans to use Luke Harper on TV or in any way, despite extending his contract. So I guess they're going to kind of make him just sit until his contract is up. So it almost kind of looks like a penalty just for asking for his release. I know a lot of these guys are unhappy. I know a lot of people want out. And in the past, we've seen WWE, if you're not, one of their megastars, like names like AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, if, you're a mid-card guy or a lower card guy, they've been released with no problem. They've been pretty accommodating when it comes to that stuff. But now they don't want to send the message that WWE is a place that people don't want to work at. They want to keep the image that people want to come there, that they're number one, that they're the best. They want to keep that image, especially with All Elite Wrestling starting up. They want to kind of keep guys from going there. They don't want to give them their whole roster for people to say, hey, I'm just going to tune in to All Elite and see these guys. Luke Harper is a fantastic wrestler. He's one of the best kept secrets in WWE for guys that have seen him on the independents before WWE as well. He just had a great match during Worlds Collide WrestleMania time with a guy by the name of Dominik Dijakovic, or, Chris Dijak, who, again, he's an excellent competitor. Dijak, I believe, is going to be somebody that you guys are going to want to look out for. He's at the top of my radar, so keep him on your list. He's got the look, he's aggressive, he's decent enough on the mic. He's just got something about him. The guy's got that it factor. He can move for a big guy. The guy is, 6'7", about 300 pounds. He can fly around the ring. So look out for him, because he's going to be a big star from the way that I see things. He's definitely got everything that they like. I'm a big, big fan. And our last story of the day is kind of a two-parter, guys. Big bombshell news this week. Brock Lesnar, as announced by Ariel Helwani, retired from the UFC. This was also confirmed by Dana White. There was a big fight that was supposed to be coming up. They had in the works between Brock Lesnar and Daniel Cormier. They were going to fight in the UFC. They've been trying to set that up for some time. And now it looks like that's not going to happen. It's definitely a surprise, but Brock has been out of the UFC for a while now. So it can be hard to get back in that training regime, to kind of get back in that mindset, to get back in the octagon. And, as great a shape as Brock stays in, as much as anybody, he's in the shape of a guy that's 25 years old. He's still 40 plus years old. He's taken wear and tear over the years. He may be the beast, but he's still, mortal. But I think the even bigger story came out shortly after that, when we found out that Brock Lesnar not only is retiring from UFC, but, I was told, and it's been reported, that he's also looking to retire from WWE at WrestleMania 36. He wants that to be his last match, one last big paycheck, however you want to look at it, and then kind of ride off into the sunset. Look, Brock Lesnar is one of the most decorated competitors, in all of sports. He's definitely made his name, made his money over the years. The guy can retire today and live very comfortably. This seems like a good time, or as good as ever, for him to retire. And now we just kind of look at names that could possibly be penciled in for his last match. I know a guy by the name of Matt Riddle in NXT announced that he wanted to be Brock Lesnar's final match. He wanted to kind of put him out of the game, retire Brock Lesnar, and he wanted to be the one. Brock Lesnar versus Matt Riddle, will it happen? I don't know. But would I like to see it happen? I wouldn't mind because with their styles, their MMA styles and their wrestling styles, I think it'd be a great match. I think it'd be a fantastic match. And I think people would love to see it. So if that match is the match that happens, I'm all for it. Brock Lesnar retiring UFC and WWE, well, I knew the day would come, but what a bombshell this week. And that's going to do it for the very first episode of Wrestling on the Go. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining us. We're glad you could be a part of it. We appreciate the support. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to go on YouTube and subscribe to Wrestling on the Go. Our next show that we plan on is on 5/18. It's going to be a Wednesday, and then every Wednesday after that, make sure to check out therinksideroster.com, our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as Too Sweet Cosplay for Steve-O, who will definitely be on the show next time. If we have to drag him in, he will be here. No, I'm kidding. Steve is a great guy. He's a great friend of mine, very knowledgeable in wrestling, and I think you guys are going to love him. So that's going to do it, though, for this week in Wrestling on the Go, where you can get the latest news, top stories, and headlines weekly in wrestling. It's your wrestling when you need it. Again, I'm your host, Drew DeSocio, and we will see you next time. The only thing you guys have to do is let us in. See ya.